How about all these bloggers that blog anonymously? They say rotten things about people, and they're actually given credibility, which is crazy. They're a bunch of cowards. They're just people seeking attention.
What Andrew talked about with me was this idea of a gatekeeper, but there are huge First Amendment rights that come into play here, freedom of speech and all of that. And he said that the people who need to be the gatekeepers are the media to check into these stories.
In the days since the New York Times revealed an elaborate Defense Department program aimed at using retired officers to carry the Bush administration's message on television and question the financial ties between some analysts and military contractors.
And too often now people say, and we've all heard it, but I read it on the internet. As if that solves the bar bet, you know. And I'm afraid not.
You are a mind-controlled weasel who feels solace in joining the hive borg of weak disinformation. You are not the intellectual. You are not the person to dictate to me what reality is. Do you understand me, boy? Do you understand me, boy?
He is angry at the government. He's talking about 9/11 conspiracy theories. He's talking about Dick Cheney more than he is President Obama. He's talking about even the JFK conspiracy theories around that assassination. So what you've got here is clearly a guy who's very mentally disturbed. There's a drumbeat along these right-wing sites about government control, the rise of martial law.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
Really, they're sort of pumping up an apocalyptic urgency that sort of some folks can take them too far. The 9/11 truth movement is part of that, but it's part of a larger trend we're seeing of some folks, especially in the last year to 18 months, taking some of these paranoid fantasies from online and translating them into violent action.
Conspiracy theorists, you relish the word. You don't have any intellectual acumen, any gravitas. You just have a label so you can, your mind can decide snobberishly to say that I don't have documentation.
If the government of this country lied to kill over 1 million Iraqis with fake WMDs, do any of us think that any of our lives mean a rat's behind to this establishment? I'm not calling for any offensive actions. I'm calling, like Malcolm X did, for people to be able to protect themselves in this country from scum at CNN. Good job killing those Iraqis with your lies. Lies.
Direct to you and in your face. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
All right, here's the bio of the individual we're about to interview for the next 30, 40 minutes or so. He's Pale Horse. Let's go ahead and play a clip of Pale Horse. Here it is.
It has nothing to do with the fact that we have a black president. I started my group several years ago, before we had a black president, when Bush was in office. They're trying to make it look as if, all of a sudden Obama's in office, and now all of a sudden these militants are taking up arms.
You know, I'm just trying to get the word out there and just train to protect my family. And, you know, I think you have the wrong idea of, you know, who I am.
The FBI conducted raids in the Midwest over the weekend, apparently targeting a right-wing militia group. The raids that resulted in at least 7 arrests occurred in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Some of those arrests are expected to face gun charges. However, it's still not clear what prompted the raids because the arrests remain sealed and will be open later today when the suspects are expected to make their initial appearance in a U.S. district court in Detroit. Reports say those arrested are part of a Christian militia group.
They are Midwestern Americans armed and ready to go to war against the United States, killing scores of police. That was the urgent warning by the FBI as it moved in on a small Christian militia in Michigan. Members have been rounded up in 3 states tonight, and now another standoff with another suspect. Dan Harris with the news at this hour. Dan?
Diane, good evening. The group in question here is called the Hutare, which apparently means God's soldiers. Prosecutors say these are no weekend warriors. They're alleged to be one part anti-government militia and one part fundamentalist apocalyptic Christian army.
I've always told the militia, you're constitutional, you're wonderful, you're the salt of the earth. We should be mainline and run for sheriff and have it be shooting enthusiast clubs. So any group that's hiding in secret and telling you to sneak around in the bushes with them, though, is going to be filled with feds, and they're going to try to provocateur you and plant pipe bombs on you. Okay, so I want to warn anybody that gets involved with these militias that you're going to be there with feds or foreign mercenaries or Mossad agents who are going to be trying to get you to carry out acts of terrorism.
Drew, was this group a real threat?
Deep down, I really, after being on this story for like 3 days, I don't think these people have the capability to do much at all. Several details in this case talk about how, they couldn't get the bomb-making material, they couldn't get the bombs to work. The undercover agent actually had to assist them in trying to help them, to show them how to make these things.
As the details emerge, it seems like there's an undercover person in there, and as you said, oftentimes we've seen that undercover officer has had to kind of help them along in their plans to get them to a place where they may be operational. I mean, I don't know if that's the case in this one, other than, voices on a tape and what sound like sort of half-baked plans. Is the feeling that prosecutors have enough to convict these people?
And a lot of these militia guys get mad because they want to strut around at events in camo and walk around acting tough, and it's like some kind of adolescent, deal or something. And then I see them go to prison. I see them get set up. Anytime somebody's join a militia, yeah, we're going to case out the local police station. And then you find out it's the cops leading it, and they bust you, and they put a pipe bomb in your car, and it's militia's plan to bomb the police station. And it comes out 6 months later in federal court that you weren't planning that.
This was an old tactic throughout history. If you have opposition, you simply demonize them by creating your own crisis, your own massacre or terrorist bombing or incident, and then blaming it on your political opponents. When you have 50, 60,000 peaceful demonstrators out exposing the corruption, how do you neutralize them? Well, you simply send in your boys to create a crisis, to offer a solution.
Again, I was on television saying that bin Laden's a CIA asset and looks like he'll attack New York. Saying, call Washington, tell them to call off the attack.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. Tyranny is enveloping the globe, and the United States is a shining jewel the globalists want to bring down, and they will use terrorism as the pretext to get it done. So that's coming up in the second half of the show. Very important information. I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you have blown things up, and that you're saying that 4 million of us are going to die and we need martial law and the Associated Press at one of your little drills you had, and that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop this Hitlerian Reichstag event. I want to put the toll-free number up for Congress. And I won't want you to believe Alex Jones. I want you to go get these news stories off my website. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true by the White House about preparing for martial law. And I want you to let them know that if there is any terrorism, we know who to blame. The point is, if any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen War, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. I want the White House numbers up there now. A big part of this solution, after you research all the government terrorism and check out what I'm saying is true, call the White House and tell them, we know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And you could save the planet. I'm calling it Operation Expose Government Terror.
On all almost everyone's list of the most likely suspects for today's attacks.
The alleged mastermind, America's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden.
He has described the United States as the devil. This is the beast.
Meanwhile, Osama bin Laden is a name that we have been hearing all day long.
They now believe that bin Laden was responsible.
I'm told that Osama bin Laden likely deployed more than 50 terrorists.
They are now, and I'm quoting here, 90% certain.
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
And not to be concerned. I have no intention of letting anyone buy me off or make any kind of a deal with me.
And you're not planning to commit suicide?
And I'm not planning to commit suicide either.
The fact that you're so visible really protects you going on Larry King and other big shows, but you want to put it on record that you're not planning to commit suicide?
No, I'm not planning to commit suicide. I'm planning to go into court on April 7th if indeed we do have the trial, and I plan on defending myself vigorously, and I plan on exposing the government in ways that, I do not think they want me to expose them.
Deborah Palfrey's ailing 76-year-old mother found the D.C. madam hanging in a shed attached to Mom's Florida mobile home, an apparent suicide. But prior statements made by the convicted prostitution ring leader herself have the internet and the airwaves buzzing. Deborah was asked by syndicated radio host Alex Jones if she was planning on committing suicide.
No, I'm not planning to commit suicide. I'm planning to go into court on April 7th, and I plan on exposing the government in ways that, I do not think they want me to expose them.
Joining me now from Austin, Texas, the well-known radio host himself, the conspiracy theorist and documentary filmmaker Alex Jones. Alex interviewed Deborah Palfrey in March of this year when she told him what you just heard, that she would never commit suicide. So, Alex, welcome. What do you think? Do you believe this to be as the authorities say it is?
Geraldo, first off, thanks for having me on. She was a very nice lady, very genteel. There's no doubt in my mind that she was murdered. Let me just go through some of the basic evidence. She told me repeatedly on my radio show, and those interviews are posted at Infowars.com in full, that she would never kill herself, that she wasn't planning to kill herself. I pressed her during breaks in front of the board ops. I said, listen, this is dangerous. You've got to say who these people were. Do you know? And she said, well, I'm not going to say. I just want this all to end. And I said, you've got to say who it was, or you're not safe. She said, listen, I'll never kill myself. If they claim that, I was murdered. So we have a tape of her saying she wouldn't commit suicide. You've got super powerful global corporations basically buying off even Western governments and using the IMF and World Bank monies to basically go in and blow out economies and buy them up. You try to talk to somebody who's a stockbroker. What do you know about stocks, Alex? Well, I know the Dow's rigged with only winners, and I know the money supply has been devalued by 44%, so the Dow's really at 6,200 and something. Oh, what's that? Oh, money devalue. What's that mean? And again, I don't even claim to be that smart. I just study this stuff. And let me tell you, I see bad all over the place. And we've only seen the beginning of this housing market unraveling. We see new home starts, half of the orders canceled. D.R. Horton and others have announced half their orders. I mean, you look at real economic numbers, and they try to put a salve on it and say, we've got 3.9% growth. With a conservative 13.6 inflation? And that's compounding each year. I'm just saying, batten down the hatches, get ready. Then we have this out of the New York Post, which it's clear they're trying to drive an implosion. I don't know why they're ratting on themselves here. That they pushed an implosion of the starting of the real estate market. Why? Because it's a money sink that they don't want you to be able to run to. So they want to go ahead and destroy that, so when they plunge the market and everybody goes bankrupt, they can go in and buy up the real assets very cheaply. But Glenn Beck is placed at a key juncture to when Ron Paul's about to win, he comes out and attacks him. When other candidates that are pro-liberty, he comes out. He runs these operations, and I've seen him say militias are bad. I've seen him say we need to use the Army against Ron Paul supporters. I've seen him say the banker bailout is good, and then say he didn't say that till he got called on it. It's the lying. They intend to keep the income tax and then give you a value-added and sales tax on top of it. But he's pushing that, value-added and sales tax. So is, and And so he gets you emotionally invested in him, saying a lot of the right things, and at key points, flip-flops. And then people are like, can't compute.
To the real world and the debate last night, who was the big loser last night? You know, Ron Paul and I agree on some things and really disagree on others. Last night, I couldn't have disagreed with the man more. He has sealed it. I could never, ever vote for him.
I think Cyndi Lauper said it best when she said, "Your true colors shining through."